Okay guys, so the first decision we need to make is what we actually want to burn or etch into our project. So I'm showing you right now, this is a cool little site called the Noun Project, N-O-U-N project. So this has a bunch of neat vector files. Most of them are pretty simplistic, so they'll burn very easy. You can see I've got some Harry Potter stuff pulled up. So this is a cool place to come to get ideas, or if you find something exactly that you want, you can just download it and bring it in. I found in the keeping with our fantasy theme here this summer, I've found one of these direwolf emblems from Game of Thrones that I'm going to burn into a piece of wood. So we'll work through that. Now the laser cutter can read lots of different file types. It can read vector files like SVGs or PDFs. It can read raster files like JPEGs, PDFs, PNGs. I believe you can even do Word documents if you wanted to. Just burn something you typed up into whatever your project is. Alright guys, once you have your design picked out, you're going to need to figure out what you want to burn your project into. I'm just going to use this piece of scrap wood that we have here, just so we can move through this example and you guys can see how it looks on a light piece of wood. So the first step that we need to do when we're ready to start getting our wood ready, we've got to power up the machine. So we'll come over and turn on the machine, and it's going to make a lot of noise and cycle through its menu. This is our Dremel laser cutter here, and the inside to give you a look at kind of the size of materials that we can handle. Next to it, this is called the hex box. It holds all the distilled water that pumps through the machine as it's running to keep it cool. So it's a coolant that it keeps cycling through the laser cutter. So once the machine is cycled on and it's ready, you can see our menu shows us that it's ready for us to begin. So we're going to take our piece of scrap wood, open up the laser cutter, and we're going to place it inside the laser cutter. So I'll line it up against this bottom here, so we have it in there nice and straight. Now different materials are different thicknesses, so the first way we need to deal with that is by adjusting the height of our laser. You can see it right there. So what I'll usually do, I'll make sure that it's high enough to where it's not going to hit the material so far, and we're in the clear there. So next what we'll do is we'll close this in there, and we'll go on into the software. Now to get the correct height or distance of the laser head from the material, we have this little puck here, and it is just the right height that's required by the machine to create the correct distance from the laser. So what we do is we'll need to just place that puck in there. Over here we have controls where we can move the laser head and move it to a place that's over the wood, and then you can see we've got a little distance there between our puck. So what I will need to do is I'll come over here, and there's a little screw right here that I will loosen. And until, trying to get so you guys can see it. I'll loosen it until that laser head drops down and touches that puck. And once I've done that, I can tighten it back up again. And then I can remove the puck, and we've got the right height in there. After we have that height adjusted, we're going to come into our laser cutter software here, and we're going to actually run a scan on that material in there. The laser cutter has a camera on it that will take sectioned photos of that whole interior, and it will put it together so that we have a good image of our base. So we're going to go in the software over here. We're going to click on capture. We've got our material in there, so we're ready to begin. And as we run it, you can see it first has to darken. So it takes a measurement of the distance, and then it will rotate through and take an image of, I believe, 9 sections. And then it will finish. And over here in the software, it will paste it together. It's still working right now. There. So now we can see exactly what it looks like in there. And from here, I can actually take that image that I found here, and I can import the file, and we can just drag that image right here into our box. So I can find that image, and I can grab it from my desktop, drag it into the upload box, and hit continue. And it will then give me the image so that I can place it where I want to on the material. I can shrink it to the size that I want. We're going to do it pretty small. And we can put it right exactly where we want to on that material. And over here we have a menu where we can adjust settings. If we want it to be lighter, darker, if we want to capture some grayscale, if it's an image that has shading, we may want to adjust the grayscale on it. We can invert it if we wanted to. And below here are the fine-tuning. So when we are thinking about the materials that we're burning into, every material is going to be different. Even woods are going to burn different. You've got soft woods, you've got harder woods, plywoods. It's all going to have an effect on how the machine burns. This software has some pre-settings. They don't always work perfectly, so we always recommend bringing in a sample piece of your material so that we can fine-tune by adjusting these settings, how deep we want the laser to burn, how fast or slow we want the laser to burn, and what resolution we would like the laser to focus on. So for this wood, we're just going to start with a birch plywood. It's very thick, so I'm going to select the thickest version of it. And over here we would do our fine-tuning. I usually start at about medium for everything, and that way we can adjust based on what the final product comes out. So once we have the image positioned exactly like we wanted on the material, we are ready to start. So up here you can see we've got a start button. We can click on the start button. It's going to ask us for some other settings, absolute or relative. Usually we stick with absolute. We want to know it's absolutely going to be right there. We don't want it to assume the location of it. We can double check our material, make sure that's all correct, and when we are ready we can send it over to our laser cutter. It'll do some loading, it'll tell us when we're ready. That cooling box will click on and make a whole bunch of noise, and we will have to come run some final checks on our menu here. These are safety checks so that it knows somebody's going to be here and that we have taken care of all the dangerous issues that might arise. So our laser head is definitely adjusted. We did that. This material is laserable. We'll discuss materials here towards the end of this video, but this is just wood. There's nothing tricky about it, so it is definitely laserable. And I will remain at the laser. Yeah, I never leave this thing going without being back here while it's on. It's just not safe. So I will remain, and then all we have to do is press this button twice, and the laser will begin. See if I can get around this glare. It may not be the easiest thing to do. And you can see we get an estimate of how long this is going to take. It's telling us it's going to be about 6 minutes to burn. So we'll let it do its burning thing, and we'll check back in with it when it's done. Okay, so the machine finished. You can see it stopped. It's not burning anymore. There's no countdown anymore. So at that point we're safe to open up the door. I'm going to send the laser head home. There's a laser home button, so we can move it so it's out of the way. We can reach in and grab our material, and we can check out our job. Looks pretty good. Sometimes some finishing. Sometimes you may want it darker. Usually we can just run the laser over it again if we want to darken it up. Or in the case that this was a sample, we would crank up the laser heat or make it slower so that we get a little bit of char down in there. It helps it stand out. You can kind of see the difference between these two. That was one where the temperature seemed about just right, so you can see some grayscale down on their shirts. It's a little darker, and then their hair is very dark. You can see on the back here, there's a lot of subtle grays you can get out of it. So it does a pretty good job. So that's really all there is to getting a laser cut project done. I mean, it's not very difficult at all. I'm going to address some frequently asked questions here in a second, and then if you guys have any other questions beyond that, you can always call us or email us, and we'll be glad to help answer your questions.